It is again a great pleasure to introduce one of my advisees for our senior speaker today, Yanbo Lee.
I've always respected people who knew what they were talking about. Today, I'm not one of those people. I'm going to talk about something that I know next to nothing about. Girls. More specifically, I'm going to talk about how all of us Gilman students, as high school boys, know next to nothing about girls. Mr. Schmick, Ms. Turner, faculty, family, and fellow classmates, and of course the Rowletts. Gilman is dedicated to educating boys. In its mission statement, it is said that Gilman seeks to produce men of character and integrity. To produce men. What does it mean to be a man? We all know that a man of character embraces the 5 pillars. We all know that a man of character strives to be his best in mind, body, and spirit. But we are not ideal men, fully confident and emotionally independent. We are boys, and we seek validation. What is validation? Here's my definition. Validation is knowing that people respect you and approve of what you do. Validation is knowing that when you are present, your presence is valued, and when you are absent, your absence is felt. Like being an active debater in English class, or being on the starting line of the soccer team, getting a call from your friends when they want to hang out, getting into college. Because we are social creatures, validation always comes from other people. Even if you feel really good about something that you did purely for yourself, it's likely that you feel good about it because some force within your social network has reinforced that you should feel good about it. So, validation comes from other people. At Gilman, we nurture this need to be validated as an individual. But while we openly praise our squash champions, our actors, and even our jazz band, there's a completely different source of social validation that is more significant than all the rest, and also much more complicated. Of course, I'm talking about girls. Girls are amazing. There's a kind of satisfaction that comes from interacting with female peers that's entirely unique. Even if you identify as homosexual, a relationship with a sister or female friend is inherently different from a relationship with a male friend. There's nothing wrong with the difference between these relationships. But what I find disturbing is that at Gilman, and in high school as a whole, we guys tend to seek validation less from meaningful interaction with girls, and more from how other guys see the way we interact with girls. Let me give you an example. Homecoming. It's the goal of nearly every guy to bring the most attractive date he can. Why? Because she's desirable, and to win her is a surge of sexual power. But what is this sexual power but the jealous approval of other guys? How much does the guy talk to the girl about bringing her to homecoming? And how much does he talk to other guys about bringing this girl to homecoming? And after the dance itself, after the 3 hours of what can only be described as a human popcorn machine, will he talk to the girl he took as much as he will talk to his friends about her? Because Gilman is an all-boys school, we spend far more time talking about girls than talking to them. Consequently, other guys' opinions of the girl become more important than the girl herself. I remember bringing my girlfriend to homecoming in sophomore year and feeling inadequate because I knew that my friends wouldn't find her attractive. I was hesitant to introduce her when people I knew came to talk to us. I went the entire night praying to blend into the sweaty mass of bodies. Not only did I feel self-conscious throughout the night, I'm ashamed to say that I vented some of my frustration at her. At our worst, we use girls as a tool to win the social validation of our fellow guys. The tragedy of this phenomenon is that we've become so focused on the values of our male society that we fail to see an entire half of the population as human beings. I'm not just talking about sexism. I'm talking about appreciating girls as people in our lives, with just as much to offer as our guy friends. At Gilman, it's not considered normal to be friends with a girl, not on the level that you're supposed to be friends with a guy. Even if we have friends who are girls, we usually only engage in small talk or meet at the occasional party. And let's be honest, we have plenty of girls that we're friends with because we really want to be more than friends with them. Who here has a platonic female figure of around the same age, who's not a sister, whom you would go to with your problems, whom you trust as much as your closest guy friends? It's kind of rare to see that at Gilman. But you might say, our shared experiences and our inside jokes are all with guys. And it's true. A lack of camaraderie makes it harder for us to befriend girls than if we were at a co-ed school. But I think it goes a little deeper than that. Not only is it harder for us to befriend girls, we've stopped trying. Whether school life without girls has made us too socially inept to bother, or the college hookup culture has convinced us that girls simply should not be our friends, we've stopped trying. Having given up on trying to form meaningful relationships with girls, we turn to our guys, who share our failings. We construct a myth that girls are not worthwhile friends to begin with, and so we can pretend that we never failed at all. From this myth, from a bros before hoes mantra, we reclaim our validation as men. And if someone actually manages to break the barrier and become good friends with a girl, he's rejected from the culture of this myth and labeled a gal pal. Now, I'm in no way better at being friends with girls than the next guy, though recently I have been trying. This past Saturday, I was hanging out in the house with 5 girls. Only 5 girls. I'm not sure if that makes me sound like the man or a total loser. But I did not have specific romantic or sexual intentions with any of these girls. I was just bored, and I thought it might be cool to interact with girls on their own terms. Anyway, things became more relevant to this speech when my guy friend dropped in to say hi. After looking around the room, he said, "Are you the only guy here?" "Yep." Nice. He gave me a perplexed look and said, "Who here are you trying to hook up with?" This kind of thing happens all the time. If a guy sits next to a girl, people suspect. If a guy walks into class with a girl, people suspect. The operative phrase here is, "You tryna?" We of the tri-school community have destroyed the middle ground between casual acquaintance and potential hookup. I say tri-school and not Gilman because the exact same thing happens at the girls' schools. As I understand it, guys are just as important to girls for social validation as they are to us, if not more. And in order to understand how we can have such a skewed perception of girls, we have to look at the complexity of how we interact with one another. Coincidentally, Bryn Mawr's Community and Diversity Group gave a long assembly on Tuesday about boy-girl interaction. They had some very interesting survey results. When asked, "Is your opinion of yourself affected by the way boys treat you?" 66% of girls said yes. "Do you ever intentionally dress provocatively to get someone's attention?" 44% said yes. Before you make any assumptions about these girls, you should also hear what we Gilman boys have to say about girls. When asked, "What makes a woman attractive?" one guy immediately responded, "High heels, long hair." Another replied with, "Large breasts, large buttocks, big lips, high cheekbones, strong jawline, and not overweight." Maybe these guys weren't taking the survey completely seriously. But it's obvious what society expects guys to find attractive in a girl. And without close male friends to tell them otherwise, it's so easy for girls to think that most guys really are this shallow. And because so much of a girl's self-validation comes from the approval of guys, she will dress and she will act differently. Almost every guy who was asked, "Do women degrade themselves?" said yes. We see girls from this perspective, the perspective they want us to see, the perspective they think we want to see. But it does not give the whole picture of a person. One of the greatest pitfalls of the tri-school setup is that we are close enough to judge, but not quite close enough to understand. But even in co-ed schools, guys and girls see each other through a twisted lens. We guys often hide behind the perception of what our guy culture says we are supposed to be. A confident, take-charge man who gets the girls but is never tied down, who does what he wants. A James Bond or Don Draper. Girls hide behind the perception of what the guy culture says that we want them to be. Provocative, dumb, laughing at jokes we make that aren't funny. We are told that this is how guys and girls are supposed to interact in high school. We are told that it is normal, it is right, to play up to these roles and these negative stereotypes. Even the guys and girls that don't directly subscribe to these values can feel their pressure. And too often, we assume that how girls present themselves to us is how they are. We assume that society's perception of us is all that we are. But I'd like to think that we're not so shallow. Even if we do like big lips and high cheekbones and everything else that was mentioned. There's more to guys than that. I want to give a quote from the writer Neil Strauss. Men are not dogs. We merely think we are, and on occasion, act as if we are. But by believing in our nobler nature, women have the amazing power to inspire us to live up to. End quote. Girls want to believe that we are not shallow. From being a guy, and from being around guys, I know that we're not shallow. So I stand here today and I ask you, I urge you to be aware of yourself. Don't be the guy that high school culture claims you should be. Be the guy that you are. Talk to girls because they're interesting and not because you want to be seen talking to them. Despite how jaded girls might get about us, despite how jaded we might get about us, inside each and every one of us, I believe, is a genuine man. It's easy to become entrenched in twisted perceptions of gender roles. But that doesn't have to happen. Stop for a moment and really think of girls simply as people. Thank you.